Hello there, how are you? Today, I just created this small setup for you guys to hopefully appreciate. It's an opportunity to sort of let you guys see how you can explain a lot of things by just setting the camera one way or not another. We have an old wall, and then we have a view. Then we have a traditional chair, an old school chair. It's material from the area. It's a local Mediterranean chair. We are in Spain, in Catalonia, around 10 kilometers from the sea, by a little reservoir and a natural park. And I just thought it was an interesting way to frame what I was going to propose to you as the topic of today. It's a big topic, as always. It's a challenge to picture it in a at least suggesting and reaching way. It's the Colombian exchange. Colombian exchange, an expression that you may guess defines how Europeans changed the equilibriums and reality of the Americas, and by integrating the Americas with the rest of the known world to them, to the Europeans, they basically created what we now call globalization. It's the beginning of a truly integrated view of the world, very Eurocentric. Hence, since what began in 1492 is also a relationship of domination of a whole continent by Europeans. Words are not innocent, and when we talk about discovery, the discovery of America, meaning that there was nobody there. Wait a second. Discovery is maybe not the word we should be using, because the etymology or the semantics of discovery are not quite accurate when talking about what happened from 1492 onwards. But as you know, sometimes we believe that big events are abstract, or they don't affect us, or they are, pardon me, BS, because who cares, or because they are academic, because it's not what I live in this world, is not me, and right now it's a different thing. It's this sort of world of ideas I'm really far away from. Actually, the Colombian exchange is something that just defines us in a way that sometimes we just forgot, because it's so embedded within what we actually are. I'm from Spain, married to a Californian of European origin. So what happened there? She speaks English, I speak Spanish. The Americas are a continent where there are lots of local languages spoken, but none of them have the force and the official recognition of English, Spanish, and you could say other European languages such as French or Dutch. Even Danish has more recognition in the Caribbean than local native languages, because natives from the Caribbean were almost fully exterminated in a matter of a few decades since the arrival of the Europeans, because of also a combination of circumstances. Jared Diamond talks about the combination of guns, warfare, for example, domination, germs, basically malady, illness coming from pandemics, coming from Europeans into populations that were not prepared for those pathogens, and still which is, a whole set of behavior and techniques that basically obliterated or subjugated native populations, which in a matter also of several generations became not only accustomed to their new reality, but they also sometimes became part of us through family relations. There was also an exported by Europeans, an imported into American cosmogony way of looking into the world, with a religion that was imposed, Christianity, and there was a way of looking into the world, a way of considering, for example, property, or exploiting, what we call developing whole areas, using sometimes labor that was not free. Slavery is also a part of the Colombian exchange. People who were forcibly transported against their will. They were kidnapped and transported against their will to the Americas from Africa, for example. And those people uprooted and just dropped somewhere in the Americas. They had to, they were basically forbidden to be who they were, and with no names, no culture, no beliefs. They had to look for a new reality, a new beginning, and this process is still ongoing, and it's still challenging, as we know, not only in the United States, but in the Americas in general, and also in Europe. We know that how our family constellations, our way of looking into the world, but also our political relations are also really, really, really related to this phenomenon of the Colombian exchange, which began in 1492. Whether we like it or not, we belong to this reality. We are part of this reality. We actually think that's reality. That's the only reality we think there is. The same way that Europeans, we just don't think of tomatoes or potatoes or cocoa or corn or turkey or other crops or domesticated animals coming from the Americas into the rest of the world through the Colombian exchange as something American. We just think it's the way there is. It was seen from the beginning. This was an asymmetrical relationship. As we know, there's the saying, which is acknowledged that history is explained and written by the victors, by those who dominate the world that comes after the exchange or the clash. And this is something we should consider when we talk about the Columbian exchange. There are also several other things to talk about, because the Columbian exchange not only forever transformed who we are, but we all have a context of proximity that explains how the Columbian exchange is part of us. But there is also something more regional we can look at, and then the global perspective that we can also analyze. From the particular perspective, I could just, for example, bring to you this example I wanted to show you. I'm showing you this part of the country house where we are currently, because this is natural park, but it explains something about the Columbian exchange. Do you remember how the Spaniards, through conquistadors such as Hernán Cortés, arrived into Mesoamerica, what then they called, after conquer, New Spain, and they not only settled there, but created a truly global reality. Mexico City was connected through Acapulco and Manila to Asian commerce, and through Veracruz, and then Havana in the Caribbean, and Cadiz in Spain, through the whole world too. So this global phenomena just created a reality that we just forgot, because now it becomes part of what surrounds us. So we are here in the Mediterranean, and despite the fact that this is a natural park, a protected area, for example, here in close proximity we have this cacti. This cactus is not from the area. It's actually a nopal, which is originated from Mesoamerica. So it's a long ways, but the conquistadors just brought back in one of their trips several staples that became part of European reality. The nopal just expanded through the Mediterranean, Iberian Peninsula, but then North Africa and Italy and beyond. And now it's part of the context in different places. Here to the left you cannot see it, but there is even an agave, also from Mesoamerica. That is an ornamental plant, and it just came to Europe as well, along with cocoa or tobacco and other staples. The potato, we all know how potato changed Europe. And to the point that the famine in 19th century Ireland was related to a pest of that particular crop that was so important to feed the country, to the point that a huge amount of population died, and a big chunk of the remaining population just flew to, for example, the US, the United States, just because of the pest of one crop that had not existed in Europe pre-1492. So this is how interrelated we are. in addition to the Mediterranean flora and fauna, as I was explaining to you, there are introduced species, domesticated or not, that cause an impact in the environment. There is this couple of plants I was explaining to you, but there is also, for example, the impact of animals or pathogens you introduce against your will, or you just don't know you are introducing through, for example, rodents, but also human or animal bond infections or diseases. And for example, one of them, if, for example, a big amount of the American native population, the Native American population, got in real trouble after the arrival of the Europeans, to the point that there are different studies that contradict each other, but some of them talk about 90%, up to 90% of the population living before the arrival of Columbus to America died on the decades, or the century and some decades after the arrival of Europeans. So we are talking about 90% of the population could have died. So there is a huge impact there. So besides this reality, on the other side of the Atlantic, some unintended consequences of this beginning of globalization, where, for example, the pest of grapes, of vineyards, beginning in the 19th century, there was this insect that was introduced through European harbors into Europe, and European vineyards were not prepared to keep that insect at bay. So the phylloxera is the name of that insect. Just ransacked, just obliterated European wine industry just by killing the plants, getting to the roots, and then just obliterating the plant to the point that the plant would die. So decades after, already in the 20th century, that wine industry of European varieties was able to sort of go back in shape by using some sort of engineering, bioengineering, because what you do is you use an American vine, which is the root plant, and then you introduce into that plant, you just want the European variety you want to grow. And by this symbiosis, you are able to, let's say, get European, grow wine from some European varieties that had actually vanished after this pest that had begun because of this interconnection in between bioregions. Another phenomenon that is very similar is what experienced the natural rubber industry, which is the rubber tree is South American, an Amazonian tree that was used along with other plants and bushes in other regions of the Americas, pre-Columbian Americas, like Mesoamerica. They would create this natural rubber, for example, to make balls for these ancient games from Mesoamerica. The potential of rubber was clear for Europeans and for their descendants in the Americas, which became American, but Americans after the Columbian exchange. Hence, sometimes Americans of European descent or Americans living in European colonies or in North American territory. North America, as we know, the United States declared independence because of a matter of basically taxation, but there was the aspiration of following this how do we call it, European is European master plan for the Americas, or this Eurocentric vision of the Americas. So rubber was an interesting crop, and it actually made riches in parts of Brazil, such as Manaus, in the very center of the Amazonia. What happened? A pest would have just made the whole industry disappear if it was not because the British Empire, or Britain, through one commerce entrepreneur, just got some of the seeds of the plant, smuggled them into Britain, into the metropole, without the knowledge of Brazilian government, and those plants were successfully grown in the British colonies of Asia and then Africa. That's the way rubber became not only less dependent on natural rubber coming from the Amazonia, but actually the only natural rubber produced at big scale after the beginning of 20th century, because that pest affecting the plant in their native land. So we're living in this complex world. We don't talk a lot about all these phenomena that define us, that define not only the way we live, but our culture, the way we talk, the way we look, also our riches or our relation with other people and things. And there are still lots of consequences derived from this apparently innocent trip in 1492 from Spain into the Caribbean islands. And I would like to finish this video. I would like to recommend you, I think, 3 documents that are not only very interesting, but very enriching to understand all the nuances, or some of the nuances, of the Columbian exchange. I'm talking about 2 essays, you say? 2 books by Charles Mann. The first one is 1491, so 1 year before Columbus' arrival. The second essay, not less interesting, is 1493, which is 1 year after the first arrival of Columbus. And that book, the second one, explains what happened onwards. The Columbian exchange, in fact. The third document I'm very fond of the qualities of documentarian Raoul Peck, who, as you know, is the director of I'm Not Your Negro, the biography and thoughts of Charles Baldwin. He's a series of four documentaries called Exterminate All the Brutes, which it's a title he got from Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness. Is a phenomenal work, and he recognizes that any work that talks about such a complex and to such an extent of something that defines us, and with such a deepness, with such a depth, is always going to be explained from one subjective point of view. But I do think it's a phenomenal work, and it enriches the conversation. And because of these works, I got fired up, and I just wanted to share this little set up with you, and let's create something new that can be healthier and can just work for us all in a better way. Just let's. There was no equilibrium. Is equilibrium something we can work on? Is something that we can attain? I do think so. At least we can create a world that is more just and fair and for us all. So idealists are needed. So this is a call not for me, it's for you. Let's be kind to each other, and let's work hard on talking about things such as the Colombian exchange and how these apparently abstract things actually define us and our relationship with others and with the things that surround us. Let's have that into consideration. Let's understand a lot of things are not innocent. The way we call things, the way we relate to things, the way we talk to each other, the way we relate to each other, sometimes there is a baggage that comes with us. Let's respect. Let's first recognize that some people were just brought into this whole phenomenon against their will, and now they, as us, hundreds of years after, they just belong to the same culture we belong to, and why such imbalances should persist. This is something I leave in the air, and I hope you like the video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.